what's happened? Why do we have masses and masses of people on the streets? Why on earth do we have shelters that are overflowing and parks that are overflowing with people that don't have homes? Well, this is something that was not caused by individuals. We didn't suddenly have a whole bunch of lazy individuals that are causing their own mass homelessness. This is something that is a systemic problem that was caused by the federal government and by our capitalist housing market and by the systemic issues in how our economy works. And we see that reflected in the policies on the local level that are focusing on, mid-range sort of housing and not focusing in the least on the actual needs of people who are of low to no income. This has left us in the state that we're in now. This is not an individual caused problem. Lazy people, people with drug addictions, people who are without work, people who have mental health. We have always had people in these situations, and we did not always have mass homelessness. We cannot get out of mass homelessness by addressing it as an individual problem. We have to address it in its real root, which is a systemic problem.
Colorado Right to Rest Act. The Right to Rest Act is simple. It addresses the human right to survive. Homelessness, though it's a statewide crisis with many often convoluted parts that must be legislated independently, the basic segments are causes, people in homelessness, and solutions. While we aggressively seek solutions, all agree people will live in Colorado's public spaces for the projectable future. So it boils down to 5 things, ensures 5 human rights necessary for survival. The first one is the right to rest in a non-obstructive manner. The second thing is the right to shelter oneself from the elements in a non-obstructive manner. The third thing is the right to eat, share, accept, and give food in public spaces. The fourth thing is the right to occupy a vehicle or recreational vehicle. And last and certainly not least, the right to reasonable expectation of privacy for one's personal property. Our bill sponsors are Representatives Javon Milton and Representative Joe Salazar. If you want to get more involved, you can contact us at info@denverhomelessoutloud.org. We also have a website, www.coloradohomelessbillofrights.org. We run this bill because we feel the need to stress that everybody deserves the right to survive, especially people on the streets. It is not just for people that are housed or have somewhere to live. It is for everyone. And we stress that every year that we run this bill. So it's the right to survive, not so much the right to rest, but the right to survive. Every human being deserves the right to survive, has the right to survive, and that is the purpose behind this bill.
Now that you know a little bit about what the Right to Rest Act is and why we run this bill, we're going to talk about what's happening right now in 2018 and what's happening in the state capitol. So this bill, the Colorado Right to Rest Act, is going to be heard and voted on in the state capitol this year, 2018. It's going to go to a committee hearing. That's the first step in the legislative process. It goes from a committee to the full House, and then to another committee, and then the full Senate, and then with the governor. This is the first step in a long fight to protect our rights to survive on the streets. This committee is going to hear our testimony. So this is why we are here today. We are putting this out here to the public to say, get prepared, get ready to come and testify to the committee about why we need the right to rest. The committee hearings are held in the state capitol building, which is basically on Colfax and Lincoln. It's the big building with the gold dome. There's a process you have to go through to get through security, but it's not too hard, so don't worry too much. Don't stay away just because of having to walk through security. They're okay with you, having big backpacks and lots of stuff. You just have to put it through the little scanner. You should be fine, even if you have a lot of bags. And then you go into the committee room. We don't know yet what committee room it's going to be, but you'll find out ahead of time what room it is, and we'll go in there. And then you sign up in the back to testify. So there's a person that's called the sergeant in arms. They're usually wearing green, and they're in the back, and you go and you tell them you want to sign up to testify. And you find the sheet that says support. Don't sign up the one that says oppose. Make sure you find the right sheet. It says support the Right to Rest Act. And there's a bill number, and this bill number is 18-1067. That's the bill number, 18-1067. You sign up on that sheet of paper to say you want to testify. Then you have to sit down and wait. Now, most committee hearings last a couple hours maybe, sometimes less, sometimes more. The Right to Rest Act, different story. Last year, 2017, when we ran this bill, there was an 11-hour hearing, 11 hours of testimony of people saying why we need the right to rest. 60 people signed up to testify in support of the Right to Rest Act, 4 opposed. This is a long process. You could end up being in this hearing until midnight. So be prepared as much as you can. If you can't stay that long, that's okay. Just come as much as you can, stay as long as you can, but be prepared that it can be a long wait to have your name called. When your name is called, that's when you go up there, and that's when you testify.
So once you get the sheet filled out, it helps to already have a speech pre-prepared. You're going to be speaking for 3 minutes, so you have to condense what you're going to say. It's best to get straight to the point. Tell why you are in support of the Right to Rest Act, the importance of the Right to Rest Act, and also, if you have time, give a little personal testimony, especially if you had experience living on the streets, have experience with the urban camping ban. But remember, you have 3 minutes. So you can't turn this into a whole life story. You just need to keep it precise and to the point. Why people need to support this bill, the need for the bill, and anything else you would like to add in a 3-minute period.
It's really a great idea to write it out and then practice and time yourself before you go in so you can actually get it all out, because often people leave the best stuff for the end and they get cut off and they don't get to say it, so it's good to practice.
A lot of time the testimony gets really emotional. We ask you to do your best to keep your emotions in check. We want to be straight and precise with what we are telling the committee that is overhearing.
And they need to know your personal stories. So if you have emotions in regards to your personal story, it's okay to share that. But remember, it's got to be on point, and you can't swear at the legislators.
Or break down.
So let's talk for a second about the key points that we need to make when we are testifying to these committee members about the right to rest. A little bit of what we need to talk about here is what the right to rest says and what it doesn't say, because there's a lot of misconceptions and a lot of misinformation that's put out there, mostly to try to make this bill sound scary and horrible for those who are opposing our basic human rights in public space. So what this bill does, as Jesse's already named, is it protects our right to survive in public space. So things that every human has to do, like sleeping, sitting, laying down, covering yourself, eating, These are things that every person has to do, and when you're homeless, you don't have a private home, you have to do those things in public space. This bill says that those acts are protected. Those you can do. You can't have laws that make those illegal. You can't have rules that make those illegal. You can do those things in public space, not in private space. You can't go, to go trespass on a business property or some person's private home. Just public space. That's all this bill is about. Just outdoor public spaces where you can survive. What this bill does not say is that you can trespass on a business property. It doesn't say that you can obstruct a passageway. It just says that you can sleep. You can lay down and cover yourself. You can't obstruct a passageway. That's not okay. It does not say that you can break any law that you want to. This is not a bill that nixes all laws in public space. It is a bill that nixes laws in public space that have to do with survival, with the acts that are named: sleeping, sitting, covering yourself. So it doesn't say that you can break health code laws. It doesn't say that you can harass people. It doesn't say that you can do drugs. It doesn't say that you can do any of those things. It simply says you have the right to survive in public space in these named ways. So when you're thinking about what you want to testify in this bill, keep that in mind. This bill is, again, it's about our acts, our survival acts in public space. Also, this bill is not about shelters. This bill does not say that shelter providers have to provide shelter. It doesn't say that service providers have to do anything. It's simply about our survival in public space. So we know that there are plenty of issues with our shelters and services in this state and around the nation that need to be addressed. That is plain as day. Especially for anybody who has experience living in shelters. But that's not what this bill is about. This bill is about the fact that we have to survive in public spaces. And when we're doing that, we need to have our basic dignity and rights. And furthermore, there's a few things that need to be kept in mind about the way that the city and the businesses and the folks that are trying to shoot this down, folks that are opposing our rights in public space. Many people often ask, well, this seems plain as day. This seems obvious. Why do people oppose this? Why is there an opposition to our right to sleep, to our right to lay down? Well, the things that they like to say are that they need these laws in order to push people into services. So we need a camping ban because that's a tool in our toolbox. This is the police speaking, or the cities, that's a tool in our toolbox to move people out of sight and into services, where that is where they need to be. That's what's helpful. That's where they're going to get their lives together. There's a few major logical fallacies and flaws with this. Number one, those services very often do not exist. There are actually not even enough shelter beds for all the people who are homeless in Colorado, even close. Furthermore, those services often do not actually meet the needs of folks who are on the streets. Furthermore, those services often are undignified and really inadequate. The hours that you have to be in there, folks who work, folks who are couples, folks who have pets, so on and so forth, they are not options for so many people. So as we're thinking about this, we cannot continue to let this narrative prevail, saying that there's services and that we need these laws to push people in these services. It's simply not true. It's harmful, and it's a violation of our basic rights. Everybody has a right to survive. You cannot be forced to go into a shelter. The key points that we need to make is speaking the truth. We have to tell the truth about what's going on the streets, because most of the time, the folks sitting in that legislature, the folks sitting in those chairs, have no clue what's actually going on the streets, or if they do, they are putting their blinders on and ignoring it. They need to hear straight up what is going on. What happened last night when cops came and told you you needed to move? What happened last month when you were moved 10 times? What happened when you lost your blankets? What happened when you were unable to sleep in your vehicle? When you couldn't go to the feed to get the food that you needed because you'd been moved all the way out to Commerce City? They need to hear these real stories, these real situations of what the effect is of the laws that are on the books right now and the practices that are in this state of criminalizing our survival in public. So that is the key point we need to make, is what is reality on the streets, and so we can bring the streets into that legislative committee room and make that truth heard.
We're going to talk about public speaking tips, kinds of do's and don'ts. One of the first things you're going to want to do is you're not going to want to go off the cuff. Write out what you're going to do. You may not speak it exactly as it's written, but write it out. That'll keep you on track, keep you where you're going to go, keep your emotions out of play. Also, have some prepared answers for questions that you might receive. Some of these legislators will go like, oh, can you tell me more about this? If you thought about things that they could potentially ask about, you could tell them more about it. Point out some logical fallacies in your testimony. For example, when you are sick and you're hurting, where do you go? You go to see the doctor. You don't go to see the police officer. So, a health and safety issue has to deal with doctoring. If you have a safety thing, you get safety equipment. So if there's a ledge and you could fall off, you build a guardrail. If people are going to the bathroom outside and you need a place for them to go, you build bathrooms. If there's trash around, you build receptacles. Trash pickup in Denver is free. One of the logical fallacies that they will tell you is health and safety issues is why they do it. And they don't respond with trash cans, with doctors. They respond with police. Policing is their answer to health and safety issues. So being able to address that right off is a good way to address logical fallacies. Other kinds of things that we all know that we don't talk about. Legislators typically don't represent the people in their district. They represent the people who supported them when they ran their campaigns. That's a small number of people. Most of the people in their district aren't registered to vote. And of those who are registered, only a small portion actually voted. And of those who actually voted, some voted for and some voted against. But they assume because this small portion actually voted for them, because all the rich supporters who got them to convince that way, that they have the public trust. They don't. You have to let them know the reason people are absent at the ballots is because they assume if that person wasn't elected, someone else just like them would be elected. And so you need to call that out, that they are representing their special interests that got them elected and not their constituents, because that's a big issue in this. The homeless community doesn't have money. The homeless community is everywhere. They're highly visible, and they see the homeless community as a path to keeping them from being reelected if they're more highly visible. So they're all motivated to hear stories like, oh, hide the homeless. Oh, it's all the homeless's fault. It's not your fault. You don't need to represent them. They're broken and all that kind of stuff. Challenge those kinds of things in your testimony. One of the things that you don't want to do when you challenge the logical fallacies, though, is you don't want to attack these guys. They are prideful, egotistical folks. So when you write out your testimony, you pull these kinds of things out, you want to draw attention to, say things, when you're sick, where do you go? You go see the doctor, not the police. Because if you do it the other way, why are you calling the police on these people? They need doctors. That winds up putting them on the defensive, and it never goes well. Same thing with other kinds of logical fallacies that you would address. Just make it obvious and plain. Also, speak into the microphone. A lot of times people be up there and they'll be shy and they'll hunker down, and then there's this microphone up here and you can't hear their words. Get your mouth over the top of that microphone and let your voice reverberate through the hall. It's well mic'd, it's well amplified. Use it. Use your voice. Your inflection will be heard better, your tone, your passion, which are all important, but they can't hear it if you don't get your mouth on top of that mic. Also, if you have copies of documentation, pass them out. So rather than just saying like, oh, I have all this knowledge, if you have some knowledge, you know, a report or something that you wrote out, make some copies, or we can help you make copies, and hand them out just before you do your testimony. Basically saying like, now you have to be accountable for this documented record.
14 of those.
Yeah, so you'll need 14 of those. And if you need help making copies, we can make them here, we can make arrangements, there's copy places close by there. But anything you got documented, even if you just want to make a copy of your testimony and say like, here's my testimony so you guys don't forget it. Because there'll be a lot of them. Another do is watch other testimonies. If you go to our YouTube channel, it's Get Loud Magazine. There is a Get Loud video out there from some hotshot lady singer, and she's very protective of her bandwidth space over there. So you got to do Get Loud Magazine, and you're going to see some half-naked lady running around telling you to get loud. So Get Loud Magazine on your YouTube search. That will take you to the YouTube channel. We have playlists on there, and a couple of those playlists are the testimonies from the last several right to rest hearings. And so you can hear the arguments that the cities are giving against the Right to Rest Act. You can hear other people's stories. You can note those people that are coming prepared, how it went, and those that didn't come unprepared and tried to go off the cuff, how that went. You can hear repeated narratives that come from the legislators year in and year out. They say the same things year in and year out, like they're kind of programmed to respond in the same way. Learning about how they do that and what to challenge in your testimony so they don't have the opportunity to go there, because they're all looking for an out. They're looking for a reason why they can't vote against this. Or they're looking for a reason why they can't vote for it. They're looking for an out. Don't give them an out. Challenge it all. And you can do that by seeing the different testimonies. So that's YouTube, Get Loud, Video Magazine, and it'll be right there on the shirt, the little circular gray thing. And when you click on it, just underneath, there'll be a thing that says playlist. Click on the playlist, and there's like 30 playlists there, and a couple of them are the testimony list from the last couple of years. One of the things about the testimony on the YouTube channel is that it's split up into all the individual testimonies. So we don't have 8 hours worth of straight video. Everybody's testimony has been split off as their own little video. So you can see what city municipalities are saying, or individuals, or certain groups. Also split off from that is the questions and comments from the legislators. So it's easy to track through and go use that as a tool without having to commit 8 hours of your day.
So, this has been a great time of getting ready for the Right to Rest hearing of 2018. I want to tell everybody a bit about how to make sure that you stay on top of this and are ready and prepared to get involved from now until the day of the hearing. The hearing date is not known. We are still waiting to confirm that. So as soon as we know, that will go out in public. And if you're watching a video of us having this conversation later, that might be known. So just check the website. What's the website? It's ColoradoHomelessBillOfRights.org. That's the best website to go to about the Right to Rest Act. And there will be information about the date of the committee hearing as soon as that comes out. There will also be information on there about the action steps that you can take to call your legislators. So you will be calling and emailing or going in person to talk with the committee members and tell them before we even get to this hearing why we need this bill. And all of that information is on that same website, ColoradoHomelessBillOfRights.org. There's also information on there about our meeting times. You can contact info@denverhomelessoutloud.org to get involved with the meeting times and do the day-to-day work that's needed to move this campaign. There's also information on that website about everything we've talked about today. So if you want to read up more about the frequently asked questions, the sort of concerns that are brought about this bill, you can go to that website and click About and scroll to the bottom, and there's an FAQ. There's also a sheet on why criminalization doesn't connect to services. There's something about how costly. There's a whole report on how costly it is. There's reports and whole databases of all the laws across Colorado that criminalize our survival in public. That's actually 351 laws in Colorado, just in 76 cities. There's tons of information on this website that you can go to and read, get educated prior to the hearing, and so that when that comes, you're ready to jump in and get involved. And one more thing that you can do right from now until then is you can talk to people. You can talk to anybody on the streets. You can talk to your friends that you sleep next to in the shelter. You can talk to folks in the parks that you hang out with. You can talk to folks that you hang out with at your work. Wherever you are, wherever you hang out, you can talk to people about this bill and about this fight. This is not just a legislative bill. This is a movement to protect our human rights in public space, and so that no more will we have these discriminatory and problematic, effed up laws that criminalize certain people trying to push you out of public space and sanitize, quote unquote, our public spaces, making it just for the rich, just for the wealthy, and not for poor and homeless folks. Public space is for everybody, period. And that's what this fight is about, this movement is about, and you can be a part of that every day. Come get involved. Contact us at info@denverhomelessoutloud.org. This is also a multi-state movement. We are not alone. We work together with California and Oregon on this same movement, this same bill, this same fight. You can get involved in California and Oregon too with Western Regional Advocacy Project as we continue this fight forward.